A straightforward and not complimentary American assessment today of Russian troop morale. This is General Frank McKenzie, the commander of Central Command. He says Moscow's military is flailing.
You can train an army, you can equip an army. What you can't give an army is the fighting spirit of the individual soldier. And they don't appear, from where I sit at least, to be particularly motivated or particularly engaged in the campaign that they're undertaking.
Still today, Russian bombs are pushing closer and closer to NATO territory. Russia launching 6 missiles at Lviv, that's in western Ukraine, earlier today. Among the targets, an aircraft repair plant. The city is only 43 miles from the Polish border. Let's bring in for his important insights and perspective our military analyst, retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. General Hertling, great to see you today. When you hear General McKenzie here, that is a point you have made over the last couple of weeks, that the Russian army is demonstrating incompetence. And with that incompetence comes morale problems. And so you have that on the table, but yet, I also just want to bring up this close-up of where we have seen progress around Kyiv, the capital. The Russians wanted to take Kyiv in days. We are in week 4. They have failed miserably at that task. And yet, General Hertling, they are closer, and they have a bit of a circle. If you look at the places that have been struck in recent days, what does that tell you?
Tells me they can't sustain that fight, John. And again, as we've talked multiple times before, they do not have the logistic support, and they're losing combat power on a daily basis. One of the things that General McKenzie mentioned, I think he failed to mention the lack of leadership in the Russian army. They have not planned this fight well. They have overextended themselves. And not only do they not have the will within the force, they have not led the force well. So as they attempt to get closer and closer to Kyiv, remember, their main mission in making that as their primary objective was to take over the Ukrainian government. They are not going to be able to do that. The fight they're approaching in Ukraine, or excuse me, in Kyiv, is going to be one of artillery battles, artillery duels, and continuous terror. But there doesn't seem to be an indicator that they have the force to actually overcome the Ukrainian government in the capital city.
And because it has been such a slog for the Russians on the ground, one of the things you watch is what are they trying to do from the air? One of the things we have seen, relatively quiet in the western part of the country, but in recent days, including recent hours, General Hertling, more Russian strikes out here in the west. You see the city of Lviv here, and you see the strikes around it. There are air bases there. There are military installations, including this aircraft repair factory today, where there's been a big debate about whether we should send more MiGs into Ukraine, a place where they repair their Air Force jets now. Again, what does that tell you about the Russian targeting?
Well, it tells me something, first of all, about their campaign plan. They are shifting. What the Russians wanted to do, John, is what's called a battle of annihilation. They wanted to take the capital, and they wanted to surround all the forces and defeat them by just surrounding them from the north and the south. They have not done that. Now they are transitioning, I believe, to a battle of attrition, which means they're trying to pick off targets. They're trying to do things. I actually think it's a little bit of desperation in terms of what they're doing in western Ukraine, because they're shooting missiles, dropping bombs, hopefully trying to take out the logistics from the Ukrainian force. Not only what they have in country, but also potentially the transfer of arms from NATO countries. So they're desperately trying to struggle to affect the Ukrainian logistics and supply support, because in a battle of attrition, which now both sides are in, logistics become critical. And they know that the resupply of the Ukrainian forces is going to be important to the Ukrainians maintaining their active defense.
The resupply is an issue you have brought up repeatedly as well. And I don't know if you were listening when Ivan Watson was on the air just a moment ago. He's outside Vinnytsia. He's in the woods. And he interviewed a Ukrainian commander who says he is beginning to get more weapons sent in. You've talked about this repeatedly. Everybody wants to do more. There's political pressure here for President Biden to do more. There's political pressure in the NATO companies do more. But you've made the point repeatedly that we are not seeing some of this because it's classified, because it's a military operation. When you hear that, a Ukrainian commander in the field saying he's beginning to get more shoulder-fired missiles, for example, what does that tell you?
Well, first of all, I'd make the point that Ivan's interview was with a territorial commander, too. So that's the equivalent of their National Guard, the militia that they've called up. So the active force, the active Ukrainian army, has been getting some really good equipment for a while. When you're talking about the territorials, the folks who are standing up to defend their homeland, now getting some of those supplies, it tells me the supplies are getting through. I'd add to that, not only are the supply lines delivering the weapons, the kinds of things these forces need, but it's been interesting to me, and from my sources, I've heard quite a bit of Ukrainian army and territorial forces taking over the abandoned Russian equipment. And that has been significant, not just tanks and personnel carriers, but artillery pieces, and turning them around on the enemy. Armies throughout history have tried to do that with their enemies. It appears Ukraine is being very successful because of the lack of leadership, the lack of training by the Russian force coming into country.
General Hertling, as always, sir, grateful. Very important insights. Really appreciate it. Thank you.